Hello and welcome everyone. I'm so excited to have you all here today for our presentation of Sam DeCaro's webinar, Rising Under Pressure, Navigating Recovery in the Era of Ozempic. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Erin Byerly, and I'm your Alumni Services Coordinator. And before I introduce you all to our presenter today, I want to go over a few announcements and give others a little bit of extra time to join. So to start, as the summer rolls on, we want to remind you we are continuing to host our alumni support group monthly, with the next meeting scheduled for next week on Tuesday, June 17th from 4 to 5 p.m. with myself and Sam DeCaro as the host for the group. We also have new outpatient group options for those in the Northeast area. On this slide, you can see the groups being offered in Paramus, New Jersey, White Plains, New York, and Boston, Massachusetts. So if you're interested in participating in these groups, you can reach out to our program information department at 1-800-RENFRU, and they'll be able to get you set up. We also will have more events and opportunities for support that you can find registration for at renfrucenter.com/events. So definitely check out the page, get registered for anything that looks like it's of interest to you or that could be support. And as always, if you feel like you need more support at this time or in the future, please feel free to call 1-800-RENFRU. And we're happy to talk with you some more about what we have to offer and what support we can provide for you in the moment. So following today's webinar, we would love your feedback. You will be receiving an evaluation form via email. It's very easily completed online, and it's so helpful when you are able to complete the evaluation form because it really helps us with knowing what's working, what we can improve on, and with developing new and innovative programs to assist in your recovery. We will also be having a question and answer set portion to the webinar following the presentation today. So you can submit questions at any time during the webinar by putting them in the chat or the Q&A box, but we will hold off on asking them until the end of the webinar. I would now like to introduce you to today's presenter. Sam DeCaro, PsyD, is the Director of Clinical Outreach and Education for the Renfrew Center, a licensed psychologist in Pennsylvania, and the co-host of the podcast, All Bodies, All Foods. Sam received her bachelor's degree in psychology at LaSalle University and her doctoral degree in clinical psychology at the California School of Professional Psychology in San Diego, California. She has been with Renfrew since 2012, completing her postdoctoral residency at the Renfrew Center of Philadelphia, Spring Lane, then holding the position of primary therapist and most recently serving as assistant clinical director. As Renfrew's national spokesperson, Dr. DeCaro has been featured in the media as an eating disorder expert on various television shows, radio programs, podcasts, and online magazines. Sam is a frequent lecturer and serves as the Alumni Services representative for the Renfrew Center of Philadelphia. So I will now turn it over to Sam to speak on this important topic today.
Thank you so much, Erin, for that introduction and all of that really good information for everyone. Thank you to all of you alums out there for joining today. I know this is such a hot topic, and I'm so privileged to really be able to share this information with you today. I want to thank you for being here with me. Thank you for taking care of your own recovery and for your desire to learn more, how to stay on track in your recovery, how to navigate all of these really confusing, overwhelming messages about the weight loss products that we're seeing so frequently on the market. So my hope for all of you today is that you leave this webinar with three things, okay? Feeling three things: feeling validated, informed, and empowered. I've done a lot of research on these weight loss products, and I want you to leave today feeling like you're armed with the education that you need about how these medications affect the body, how they affect the brain, how they may impact your recovery, how to ultimately advocate for yourself when you're in medical spaces or mental health spaces. So my hope is that this webinar helps you stay focused on what truly matters to you, getting back in touch with your values. And my promise to you always with any alumni webinar that I do is that I will give you lots of tools and resources that you can actually use to improve your relationship with your body, to continue to strengthen your recovery voice. That's so important. I really wanted this webinar to benefit you beyond the last slide. So my hope is that you can come up with some goals and some ideas of something you might want to try today or maybe sometime this week, because I know that the marketing, the incessant marketing of these weight loss products can be so overwhelming. And I think really part of rising above the overwhelm is being able to create small, doable, achievable goals. And of course, connecting. And so I'm so happy you're here today because this is part of connecting, reconnecting with yourself, reconnecting with the Renfrew community. Connection is always foundational in healing. So thank you again for being here and for taking care of yourself. We're going to go over so much today, but I want to jump in first by validating some of the emotional experiences that may be coming up for you. And I hope you feel seen. I hope that you feel heard when I say that it is normal and valid to feel confused, to feel grief, to feel self-doubt, anger, and even betrayal when we're seeing all of the marketing coming through for these weight loss products. Maybe there are people you once looked up to in the body positive spaces, in the body acceptance spaces, online, on social media, and suddenly you see that they're getting paid now to promote and to take weight loss drugs. Maybe you're seeing before and after pictures. It makes sense that you may be feeling sadness, anger, confusion. All of that is really valid. If you notice that you're comparing yourself more to others now than before, maybe you're comparing yourself to friends who are on these medications, or you're comparing yourself to people online. Maybe the eating disorder voice is trying to convince you again that thinner is healthier and thinner is better in some way. Maybe you're even experiencing weight stigma, and there are providers in medical spaces and mental health spaces who are actually doing harm by recommending restriction or recommending weight loss to you, knowing that you are in eating disorder recovery. I just want to say, I see you, I hear you, your feelings are valid. And I think these feelings are so powerful. You know, these feelings of anger and sadness, they may be very, very big feelings for you. And that is probably because your core values are so big and powerful. Maybe you're someone who really values body diversity and inclusion. Maybe you're someone who truly values all the hard work you've done in recovery. And there's a part of you that recognizes that these weight loss products may compromise that hard work that you're doing and that you did. And so it makes sense. So I want to validate you, and I also want to give you the tools to validate yourself as well. But yes, we're seeing these celebrities, these influencers suddenly getting paid by these companies to endorse and promote these products. And it can really be a process of grief. I wanted to share with you an article written by Kate Bernick. And this article really stood out to me when I read it. And the quotes that I read in there were so powerful. I wanted to share with you because I think it will help some of you feel very seen. But what Kate had said was, quote, when we lose fat representation, when celebrities suddenly lose weight or our fat icons lose the media's interest, it's fair to acknowledge a collective loss. I feel that loss right now. And there's another quote, you know, she had written, suddenly after more than a decade of therapy and hard work learning to love my fat body, I recently found myself considering weight loss again. What if I secretly started Ozempic? It's been terrifying to have these kind of thoughts again, and it's a reminder that I will always be in recovery. So maybe that resonates with some of you. You're not alone, that these thoughts and these feelings may be coming up for you. Aubrey Gordon, who is the host of the podcast Maintenance Phase. If you haven't checked this out, this is a wonderful resource. A while back, she did an episode about Ozempic. I had the honor of listening in on it, and she also shared a quote that stood out to me, and I wrote it down immediately, knowing I wanted to share it with all of you one day. And I'm so glad to be here today to do that with you. And I encourage you to go back and listen to this episode in her podcast. It's a wonderful podcast all about debunking and decoding wellness and weight loss and all the myths in diet culture and wellness culture. But she wrote, or she said on her podcast, I feel I don't belong in the world. When people talk about how great it's going to be when I'm not around, that is you saying plainly, everything will be better when you're gone. And what Aubrey is referring to here is essentially the erasure of fat representation and what it feels like to live in a larger body and experience the emotions when you're confronted with the marketing and the push for these weight loss products. And oftentimes these companies are promising that these products are going to result in miracles for people. I will go over all of that later so that you are armed with the facts and the education that you need to make informed decisions in your life. And hopefully, you'll be able to walk away feeling more empowered. So, let's start with education, educating yourself about what these medications actually are, what they do in the body, how they affect the brain, and ultimately how they may impact eating disorder recovery. So when we're talking about Ozempic, I know Ozempic's in the title. What we're actually talking about are semaglutide medications. Now I've heard this pronounced a bunch of different ways, semaglutide, semaglutide. I'm going to stick with semaglutide for now because that just seems to flow off my tongue a little better. But what we're talking about are semaglutide medications, and these are GLP-1 receptor agonists. Now, what does that mean? Maybe it's been a while since you took a biology class, and that's okay. I've done a lot of research so that you don't have to. But essentially, an agonist is a substance. It's a man-made substance that binds to a cell's receptor. And these substances actually go in your body and act like a hormone that you already have. So there is a hormone called GLP-1. And so this product is designed to essentially mimic that hormone. The only difference is that they seem to bind and stimulate it for longer, stimulate that receptor longer than the natural hormone would. And so when we're talking about semaglutide, that's what we're talking about. And the company involved is Novo Nordisk. And so they sort of have the rights to this medication. And so they're the ones that are selling it and marketing it. So Ozempic originally was a medication that came out, and it was designed for people with diabetes. And what they found was that for some people, a side effect of this medication was weight loss, among many other side effects. And so, what they did was, in an attempt to maximize that side effect, they increased the dose significantly, almost doubling the dose, and just calling it by a different name. And so they call it Wegovy. And all of the commercials and the marketing out there is that Wegovy is meant for weight loss, when actually initially these medications were designed for people with diabetes and to help them control blood sugar. These are the exact same medications, they're at different doses. And so, at a lower dose for people with diabetes, the dose is really meant to target glycemic control and minimize all of the side effects. But actually, at these higher doses, we sometimes see more side effects. And there are other issues that come with taking higher doses of this medication to intentionally pursue weight loss. There's other medications you're going to hear out there because Eli Lilly is another company who wanted to market similar drugs, except that Novo Nordisk already had the patent on the first one. So they actually came out with a different drug that mimics not only the GLP-1 hormone, but the GIP hormone. So tirzepatide and semaglutide. It's a different type of medication that targets both hormones at once, and there are different brand names for it, but essentially same sort of thing where there are certain medications designed to treat diabetes, and then those medications at much higher doses are marketed for weight loss. So I know that's a lot to take in, but I did just want to give you an overview of the names of these medications so that you understand what they are when you see them in the commercials. Okay, so what do these medications do exactly? So the GLP-1 hormone, we all have the GLP-1 hormones in our body, unless, of course, you have a very rare genetic mutation, and it's possible that maybe you don't make enough of this hormone. But generally speaking, all of us do have GLP-1 hormones, and they are designed in our body to help regulate blood sugar, appetite, and digestion. And so when we introduce these medications in the form of a product, what they end up doing is suppressing appetite and delaying gastric emptying. So it slows down how quickly food moves through the body. So it prolongs feelings of fullness, and it also has an effect on blood sugar. So it's also important to know that these medications have an effect on our dopamine. And so they can actually suppress dopamine. And for some folks, that means that food is less appealing, less pleasurable. But the only problem is we can't selectively suppress dopamine. And so there are some reports of people on these medications where they feel very apathetic, it affects their mood. They actually find that they're not finding pleasure in many things, not just food. So it can have an impact on the brain in that way. And so what happens is these products impact the appetite regulating pathways. And what ends up happening is it actually facilitates restriction. And weight loss can occur for at least a period of time. So these are kind of short-term things that happen with this medication. I'll talk a little bit more about that, about the studies that were done. But it's still unclear in the research that I've looked at, if people alongside any weight loss they're experiencing are also experiencing the negative effects of restriction, like malnourishment, micronutrient deficiencies, muscle loss, and any other issues secondary to restricting intake. What's important to know is that the studies that have been done on these products have been paid by Novo Nordisk. Most of them have. There's lots of conflicts of interest. And so I'll talk a little bit more about the results of the studies that are out there. But it is important to be a very critical consumer when it comes to research and to understand the conflicts of interest at play, that there may be ulterior motives when people are doing research and conducting research, especially if they're getting paid by the company that is selling that very product. So let me move on here to the next slide. And we're going to talk a little bit about informed consent. And I think this is really, really an important concept when we're talking about these products. And also an important concept is bodily autonomy. And so I just want to point out that bodily autonomy is very important for every single one of us, especially for folks in eating disorder recovery. It is the right for a person to govern and to make decisions about what happens to their body without feeling forced or controlled in any way. And so, in order for you to make decisions about what's best for your body, it's crucial that you have the information that you need before making a decision. And I'm not sure that that's always happening in medical spaces. Your medical providers and your mental health providers have a responsibility to provide you with information about interventions, medications, products that they're recommending so that you can make the decision that's right for you. And so the process of informed consent is is really about you being able to get the information in a way that feels comfortable to you, in a way that you understand it, in the way that you prefer to receive it. If you're someone who really wants to read a bunch of research articles, your provider should give that to you. If you'd rather sit down and have an in-depth conversation about what these products are and what the risks are, then your provider should be able to do that for you. That would be the ethical way to go about this. So if your providers are recommending anything to you like this, it's very important that they're going over all of the potential burdens, the potential risks, and also the expected benefits of all options, including not taking these products. And so these should really be in-depth conversations with your treatment providers. And I really want to empower all of you to be able to ask for the information that you need if a provider is ever recommending anything to you, whether it's a medication, a product, or an intervention. And so you have the right to that information to make the decision that is best for you. And maybe that's in the form of a letter that you hand over to your doctor. Maybe a therapist can help you write a letter to give to your medical providers explaining that you have a history of an eating disorder or that you're actively in recovery and that you need more information about anything that they're recommending. So, informed consent, very important. You may be wondering, I'm going to go over some very frequently asked questions. You may be wondering, or your eating disorder voice is chirping, wait, can these products cause weight loss? I really want to know because they make it seem like, when we watch these commercials and see the big marketing push for these products, it makes it seem like it's a magic solution for not only improved health and improved energy, but essentially a smaller body that feels safer existing in this world. Because I do want to validate the real experience of weight stigma in this world. I just want to point out that the studies that are available, yes, there seem to be some evidence of short-term weight loss. But also, it's very important to know that that weight loss seems to stop. It's also important to know that this medication is designed for someone to stay on it for life, your entire life. And the studies that we have are really not very long. And I'll talk about that in a moment. I think it's 2 to 4 years is the longest study that we actually have on these products. And if you're on this product for life, there may be a chance you need to come off of it. And so not only does weight slow down and stop over time, these studies conveniently cut off right when that weight is starting to trend up again. The body is very smart. The body knows where it wants to be. The body, as we know from decades and decades of research about weight cycling, the body seems to have a set point, a place where it naturally wants to be. And so it seems that because these studies cut off at a certain point, we actually don't get to see the long-term impact of these products on the body. It is important to know that if you need to get off these medications for some reason because you're experiencing an adverse event, it's jeopardizing your recovery in some way, most people will lose any health benefits that they experienced on the medication, and the weight will most likely be regained. When I looked at these studies, they weren't just looking at the product. The subjects in these studies were prescribed the product and prescribed to restrict their intake. So we're actually looking at the result of someone restricting. And as we know, restriction is an eating disorder symptom. It's disordered. And when these studies are brought to our attention in the media, this is not the information that we're getting. These subjects are told to restrict while they're on the medication. and then their weight is monitored over a course of over a period of time that is very short term. Let's remember that these products are promising short-term benefits. Recovery is long-term freedom. And so we really need to think about, is our eating disorder voice going to be attracted to a short-term promise? There's maybe another voice in there that knows that recovery can give us that long-term freedom that we're looking for, that long-term freedom that's more aligned with our core values. So the long-term effects of these medications are not yet known. You may hear in the media that there are long-term studies on these medications, but long-term is really only defined as 2 to 4 years. We don't yet know the impact of these medications on the brain, the body, and certainly not for folks who are navigating eating disorder recovery. Not to mention that these medications are not accessible easily, even for people who have diabetes, and insurance will not often cover these medications unless they deem it to be medically necessary. There are issues with access, there are issues with supply. I will talk more about that in just a moment and how that may impact you as well. Here are the long-term studies that we were talking about. Essentially, we don't have long-term studies that can answer many of the questions we still have about whether or not these products are actually safe. We still have questions about what doses are most beneficial, even for people with diabetes, questions about what exactly happens when people need to stop taking these medications. We still have questions about how much these medications may contribute to weight cycling. And for those of you who don't know, weight cycling is essentially yo-yo dieting. It's the repeated gaining and losing of weight over time that is extremely stressful on the body, and it can be extremely harmful medically and psychologically. So we still have questions about that. And we still don't know the impact on development, especially if younger folks are taking these medications. We don't know how these medications will affect their development. And we certainly don't know how these medications affect folks in eating disorder recovery. As I mentioned earlier, many of the studies that are available for these medications are conducted by authors who are paid consultants, employees, or they've received money from Novo Nordisk. The studies also were very narrow as far as the subjects go. They were mostly white cisgender women, and the weight in the studies plateaued at week 60 and started going up at week 104, right when the study cut off, which seems a little manipulative of the authors to do so. Important for you to know that. Over 96% of subjects reported an adverse event in the 2-year time frame of at least one study that I saw. Remember, these medications are designed to be on for life. And so the chances of experiencing an adverse event during a lifetime is probably going to be even more than 96%. It's unclear if subjects were actually malnourished or experiencing nutrient deficiencies and losing weight because they were simply not eating enough, because they were restricting, because they were engaging in a disordered behavior. You may be wondering, can these products help me with my eating disorder symptoms? It is true that there are a few very small short-term studies. I'm talking maybe a few weeks to 6 months. I saw one study that had under 30 subjects in it, which is very low in the research world. But there are a few small short-term studies that suggest these products may help reduce binge eating episodes and reduce quote unquote food noise. This is a very important thing to understand. These results, these studies that you're hearing about, the results are mixed. Not everyone will experience these things. Not everyone will experience a change in their eating disorder behavior. My question would be, yes, maybe the study suggests that people can reduce their binge eating. But my question would be, at what cost? Is the other side of this coin just a product that's inducing restriction? Is this a product that is just making it easier to engage in disordered eating? Are we talking about weight loss because someone is skipping meals? Someone is reducing their caloric intake below what the brain and body truly need to thrive? Are they experiencing nutrient deficiencies that can affect not only us physically, but nutrient deficiencies can affect mood and sleep and cognition and memory and focus and concentration? So these are the questions I still have about these medications. These medications are not approved at all for eating disorder treatment. And as we know from decades and decades of research, weight loss is not a treatment or a cure for an eating disorder. And so these medications are just marketed for the intentional pursuit of weight loss. They will never be able to address the things that we already know maintain eating disorder symptoms: trauma, the relational aspects, the emotional aspects of an eating disorder, the cognitive aspects of an eating disorder, the nutritional maintaining factors of an eating disorder. If anything, these medications may actually interfere with working on those things. We already know about treatment approaches that actually do address the maintaining factors of an eating disorder. We already know about evidence-based practices that work. These medications are making a lot of promises without the long-term research that they really do need to back those promises up. I want to talk a little bit about the side effects. And this is a really important part of informed consent when you're thinking about your own bodily autonomy and you're thinking about the risks that may impact your eating disorder recovery. There are some very, very common side effects that occur with these medications: nausea, vomiting, abdominal pain, GI issues, feeling very, very full, making it very, very difficult for someone to stick to the meal plan that maybe their dietitian is recommending for them. One of the most dangerous things I think about these medications is that if this medication is making it easier to restrict, what we know about the restrict binge cycle is that if you ever do need to come off this medication, it could potentially make binge eating episodes much worse. As we know, restriction can be part of a binge eating disorder, and a period of restriction can fuel binge eating episodes in the future. There are less common but much more serious side effects that we don't talk about a lot. You don't see a lot in the media, but I wanted to be sure that you had this information, that you were armed with this education. There are some very, very serious complications that can happen that will likely require someone to come completely off of the medication. And there's other issues and potential issues that I listed here as well, not the least of which is the concept of compounded medications. So because there have been shortages of these medications with Novo Nordisk, with Eli Lilly, there is a loophole in the legal system that allows compounding pharmacies to make and sell these products. The only problem is that there's a lack of regulatory oversight. These are not FDA approved products. They're not FDA approved pharmacies. They're not held to the same manufacturing standards. There's questionable sourcing, potency, and purity of these products. And so there are issues with getting these products from other places. And we're seeing a lot of marketing from med spas. I'm sure you're getting a lot of pop-up ads, maybe online, or seeing things on TV about how to get these medications more easily. I want to give you the information that you can be armed with, knowing that these products are not regulated in the way that they really need to be. There's not the robust clinical testing and standardized dosing that we need to see with the compounded medications. and the compounded medications are everywhere. And so I wanted to help you understand what it actually means when a medication is compounded and the risks associated with that. Also, there is a lot of commitment of time, effort, and resources when you're on these products. There are follow-up appointments and tests, there's ongoing monitoring, there's standardized assessments to track symptoms, and there's expense. Insurance coverage is not always there. There's a financial commitment involved. Again, these medications are designed to be on for life. So, will these products interfere with eating disorder recovery? I'm sure you might be wondering this. And the answer is yes, they potentially can interfere with recovery in a variety of ways. These medications are designed to suppress appetite. It can make it much harder to eat and to give your body and brain the nutrients that it needs, the nutrients that your dietitian is recommending that you have while you're in eating disorder recovery. It can be very hard to have the meals and snacks. It can be hard to engage in exposure work. Exposure work is extremely powerful and effective in eating disorder recovery. It can make it harder to engage in vivo exposure work with those fear foods and reintroducing the foods that your eating disorder wants you to avoid. It's very hard to get on the same page with treatment providers. If you have one medical provider who is recommending that you take these products to lose weight, and then you have an anti-diet, weight neutral dietitian and therapist who are trying very hard to help you work on body neutrality, help you nourish your body, help you engage in movement that's joyful, helping you enjoy food again. So it's very important when you have a treatment team that all members of the treatment team are working together and collaborating on the same page about your well-being. These medications can really interfere with hunger cues, with fullness cues. A lot of the work in recovery is about connecting with your body again. And these medications can truly interfere with that. Not to mention that a provider that is prescribing these medications may also be prescribing the very symptoms that we're trying to target, like restriction. It also shifts the focus when the goal is intentional weight loss. It can really shift the focus to the body as a as a marker of progress and improved health, when we already know that weight is a completely unreliable measure of health and wellness, and that really the work is being able to shift our markers of progress to more reliable measures, measures that actually indicate that we're healing and becoming healthier versions of ourselves. So you may be wondering, well, I'm hearing a lot all the time about the issues with quote unquote weight related health conditions. And I've dug up a lot of research for all of you because I want to help you challenge this idea that weight loss will always result in improved health and that gaining weight is somehow always a sign of becoming unhealthier. These are actually myths in our culture. And I wanted to give you actual research. I wanted to bring receipts so that you could take a closer look at some of these studies to challenge these beliefs. That eating disorder voice might be so loud right now, trying to convince you that you need to lose weight to be healthier, that you need to focus on weight loss, that you need to focus on changing the shape and size of your body. And these are some really helpful studies to help challenge some of those thoughts that actually weight is an unreliable measure of health, and there are much better ways to measure progress if we're interested in becoming healthier. So here are a few examples of the ways that we can measure health, other markers of health that are easily monitored by your PCP. If you're in an eating disorder program and you have a medical team monitoring you, there are other ways to measure health that are just much better indicators of whether or not the body is healing. And so we can look at things like blood sugar levels, we can look at lab work, we can look at blood pressure, We can look at the frequency of eating disorder symptoms. Are we reducing or eliminating those? We can look at the EKGs. What's going on with the heart. If you have a medical provider who is recommending weight loss to you to solve some symptom that you have, one of the questions that you can ask them, what medical advice would you give a thin person with the exact same issue? And this was something I learned from, there are so many wonderful fat activists out there. Reagan Chastain is a prolific writer and really gives her readers, she has a newsletter. I'll give you the name of that newsletter at the end of the presentation. But she really helps people advocate for themselves in medical spaces. But I thought this question was just so wonderful. What advice would you give a thin person with the same exact issue? It's also important for us to redefine what health really means. We have been brainwashed in this culture to believe that health is so connected to the shape and size of our body. But there are actually so many variables that impact our health, many of which we don't have control over. These are macro issues at play that affect our health. But somehow the message that we're always getting is that the onus is on us, that we need to change what we're doing, that we need to lose weight, that we need to buy this product to become healthier. And I wanted to remind all of you, these are just 9 examples of social determinants of health that have nothing to do with weight, shape, or size. And so there are macro issues, policy issues, issues in our environments and our culture and our societies that impact our health. And we're tricked oftentimes to think that weight loss is the answer to everything. So when that eating disorder voice is chirping in your ear about how you need to lose weight, that actually being thinner is healthier, I'd invite you to come back to this slide. If you want to take a screenshot of it, go for it. I want to remind you that there are so many different variables that impact our health, and we're not always in control of the things in our environment that are impacting us. So where do we go from here? You may be wondering, what do I do now? And my promise to you was to give you tools and tips and resources. I want this webinar to benefit you far beyond the last slide. And so let's get in to the tools. And some of this will be a refresher for some of you, and some of this will be brand new also because I have lots of great things that you probably haven't seen yet. But let's go back to basics. Remember your why. Why do you want recovery? And the decisional balance can be a wonderful tool here where you can get it all on paper, get it all out of your head. I know sometimes it can be all consuming, going back and forth in your head. Do I really want recovery this way? Or do I want to, just take a different road completely and try something else? You may be back and forth in your head. Why do you want recovery? What are all the pros and cons of change? And what are all the pros and cons of staying the same? And getting it all on paper can really have a side effect of emotional containment. It can help reduce that anxiety. Although this tool is not meant and designed to reduce anxiety, getting it all on paper, getting it all um, out of your head and onto a working document can be so helpful. So if you notice you're back and forth in your head, do I want recovery? Do I not want recovery? Go back to the basics. The decisional balance is a wonderful tool, and all you need is a blank piece of paper and a pen or a pencil, and you can just make this and fill in the boxes, bring it to your therapist, talk about it. And the beautiful thing about the decisional balance is it's a working document. So you can always pull it back out, change it, edit it, add on to it, always go back to it and refine it as needed. Let's go back to your core values. What are they? I know that eating disorder wants you to think that your core values are all about food and weight, but you are so much more than that. And there's this part of you, if you're here at this webinar I know something about you. There's a part of you that knows that you are so much more than the eating disorder, that you are so much more than wanting to pursue weight loss. Maybe there's a voice in there that is trying to convince you to intentionally pursue weight loss, but there's another voice that's stronger because you're here today. And there's another voice that knows that you have core values that are so meaningful to you. So let's get back in touch with those core values. You can print out a list of core values online, print it out, and circle. I have my clients circle at least 5 core values that stand out to them. And this is what we call a values bank. Circling and figuring out which values you feel most connected to, and then asking yourself some questions. These can be journal entries. This can be something you can talk about with a therapist, with your dietitian, with a friend. What values make you feel most proud? Are there values where the eating disorder provides a false sense of those values? Are there other ways to align with those values without the eating disorder? Which values have you sacrificed or compromised or completely lost interest in because of the eating disorder? Has your world and your values become very small because of the eating disorder? 10 years from now, which values best represent the person that you would like to become? These are really thought-provoking, interesting questions that can help you know yourself, get back in touch with what truly matters to you so you can make choices that are aligned with your values. Remember, recovery is about long-term freedom. It's about living a life long-term that's aligned with what you truly want. These products on the market are nothing new. Weight or appetite suppressants, weight loss products have been on the market forever in different shapes and forms and sizes, under different names, under different disguises. These fads will come and go, but your recovery is long term. Your values are long term. Let's get back in touch with those. Let's talk about media literacy, which is so important because a lot of these advertisements we're seeing in the media, we're seeing on social media, we're seeing on TV and magazines, we're seeing before and after pictures. We're seeing people that maybe we're connected to online on social media that are posting about their quote unquote weight loss journeys and putting their photos up and talking about how happy and healthy and energized they are. This can be really, really hard. We need to take care of ourselves, and media literacy can be a very powerful way to do so. There's actually research on media literacy. Research actually suggests that media literacy programs have shown to be effective in addressing shape and weight concerns. Social media especially can be such a triggering place to be. And it's very important that you have the skills that you need to know when someone's selling you something, to know when there's an ulterior motive, to know when a spokesperson is not qualified or trustworthy to really be recommending anything for your health or your eating disorder recovery. So these skills, media literacy skills, can help us think more critically and analyze what we're seeing so we can better understand the relationship between these really powerful multi-billion dollar industries that are ultimately just trying to sell us something. I wanted to give you real concrete, practical tools you can use with social media. Take a screenshot. I have 9 of them here. And this list is obviously could be much longer. If you have any tips, anything that's worked for you that you want to share in the chat, put it in there. But one way that you can help create boundaries around social media is, turning off your notifications. Even just delaying the urge to check it can be very, very helpful. And over time can maybe help you check social media less and less. Unfollow those people that make you feel less than. block or, block accounts, mute people, whatever you need to do, check in with yourself. How does this account make me feel? How does this account impact my eating disorder urges? How is it impacting my recovery? What do I notice when I'm looking at these types of images? Check in with yourself about it. Take a look at your feed. Are you following people that all look the same? Our feeds, our social media feeds should look like the rest of the world. They shouldn't look like a very small percentage of the population, tricking our brains into thinking everyone looks the same. Body diversity is a real thing, and our social media feeds should reflect that. So take a moment, maybe one of the goals you set for yourself, maybe you're going to unfollow some people on social media. Maybe you're going to mute some people on social media. Maybe you're going to follow some body positive creators. Maybe you're going to follow some registered dietitians and some anti-diet therapists. Create a goal for yourself. What can you do today or this week to make social media a safer place for you and your recovery? What can you do so that social media is a place where you feel empowered, you feel uplifted, you feel seen, you feel understood, and you feel a sense of community? Research shows that when we use social media to connect rather than to compare, that is much, much better and protective for our mental health. So think about that. Social media can be a great place to start if you're thinking about real, concrete things that you can do today or this week. How do we build a better relationship with our bodies? Let's get back to basics here. It's about reconnecting to the body. It's about noticing our physical sensations and honoring them, noticing when we're hungry, noticing when we're full, honoring our cravings, honoring not only our cravings, but allowing food to be a source of pleasure and comfort and celebration. Food is more than fuel. Checking in with our need for rest, for sleep, for pleasure, for comfort? Are we wearing clothes that are uncomfortable? Are we not honoring our bodies in that way? Are we listening to our bodies and allowing them to be comfortable, allowing them to experience peace and joy? Are we in tune when and noticing when we're feeling pain or discomfort? Do we know when we're craving touch or connection in some way? If you could add anything, what would you add? Put it in the chat. The way that we improve our relationship with our body is learning how to reconnect with it, to listen to it, to honor its needs. When it asks us a question, we answer it. So these are just a few ways that we can reconnect with the body. Body image is not about looking in the mirror and liking what you see. Body image is about connecting with your body, honoring your body, and treating your body with respect and care, even on the days you may not like it. Here are some ideas if you are into writing, journaling. This can be a really powerful exercise to help build a better relationship with your body and challenge some of the cognitions that may be driving your body image dissatisfaction. Write an essay critiquing the thin ideal and critiquing the companies that are marketing these weight loss products and critiquing the people who are profiting off of our insecurities. Write a letter or pretend to talk to an imaginary child who is worried about their weight or size. Teach them how to navigate the pressure of Ozempic, the pressure of weight loss products, the pressure to change their body. Here's a journal prompt. Remember a time when you were pressured to change your body in the past. Imagine talking back to the person now who pressured you. What would you say? In a way, this is kind of like reparenting yourself. If you have a memory of being a child and not really having the skills or the confidence or the tools to talk back, maybe you can enter yourself in that memory and give that child a voice. These are ways that we can strengthen our recovery voice. challenge the eating disorder voice, and challenge the nonsense and the noise that we're hearing out there that, by the way, is nothing new. Weight loss products, appetite suppressants are nothing new. These have been on the market for decades in different disguises. We can do this. We can challenge these messages and strengthen that eating disorder recovery voice and become more aligned with our values along the way. Learn to validate your feelings. I'm going to give you some examples. It makes sense I would feel angry because I care deeply about body acceptance and body positivity and inclusion. I can see how this makes me feel sad because I'm working hard to accept my body and I'm under a lot of pressure to change it. Of course, I'm feeling betrayed because my favorite body positive influencer is promoting a weight loss drug. It's normal to feel confused because I'm working on accepting my body and the media is pushing me to change it. Self-validation can be so powerful. You can use this with yourself. You can use validation with people you care about. If there are people who are coming to you sharing their feelings, you can use this with others. The validation is one of the most powerful tools because we can help ourselves accept our emotions, and it can have a side effect actually of regulating our nervous system, self-validation. So some of you out there may already be taking these products and you're wondering what now? Maybe your doctor prescribed it for diabetes or glycemic control, or maybe they did prescribe it for weight loss and maybe you're taking it and you're trying to navigate recovery and you're not sure what to do. I really want to encourage you to create a safety plan and exit strategy um, with your therapist, hopefully with a dietitian. And this actually comes from, I wanted just to direct your attention to a piece of writing that the National Association of Anorexia Nervosa and Associated Disorders came out with. I put that right at the bottom. And they had various psychiatrists and eating disorder professionals in the field come up with guidance around these medications. And if you are already taking them, frequent and ongoing monitoring by your team is crucial to make sure that there aren't eating disorder symptoms popping up, that it's not triggering on old behaviors, old urges, old thoughts. Monitoring that is going to be very, very important. Taking those assessments, making sure that you're nourishing your body, that you're getting the nourishment that your brain and body need to fully thrive. Um, we want to make sure that you are identifying any new triggers that may be coming up for you now that you're on these medications. Um, do you have boundaries created around weight loss and the rate of weight loss that may be happening as a side effect? At what point will there be a plan to decrease the dose, to switch meds, or to stop them altogether? Do you have a plan on how to cope with weight rebound and weight cycling? Do you have a plan to cope with side effects? And do you have a list of supports that you can go to? People who can listen to you and support you and help you stay aligned in your recovery goals. Health at every size. I think it's always important just to have a refresher of how this approach can be so helpful in recovery, because health at every size is really about thriving in your life, in your body, and doing so by accepting and respecting all body shapes and sizes, by taking care and respect of the body, by understanding the harmful effects of weight stigma and discrimination, and being able to feel empowered enough to combat weight stigma in medical spaces, knowing what weight stigma is, uh, and feeling that you have the knowledge and the tools that you need to address weight stigma in certain settings. It's about eating for well-being, balancing nutrition, hunger. Do you feel satisfied? Are you enjoying food? It's all about improving your relationship with food and your relationship with movement. Movement should never feel like a punishment. Movement should be a source of joy. Movement can be intuitive. We can listen to our bodies and figure out what type of movement it needs to feel good, what type of movement it may not need. You know, maybe your body just needs rest, but it's really all about tuning into your body, taking a more intuitive approach to movement and food. Lots of resources for all of you. I know we're just about out of time. If you want to take a screenshot, podcasts, books, if you want to do more work around unpacking diet culture and challenging internalized weight stigma, here are some really great places to start. Reagan Chastain has a wonderful newsletter. Here are some wonderful books for individuals in recovery on body image, on body acceptance, no matter where you are in your life developmentally, midlife, if you are an adolescent or young adult, there's something here for everyone. And here's my contact info if you'd like to continue the conversation. Thank you all for being here, for taking good care of yourself. Kudos to all of you. There's a part of you that wants to stay aligned with recovery. I see you, I hear you, your feelings are valid.
Sam, thank you so much for giving this presentation. It's such a timely topic, and I mean, the effort and the research you put into this, like you can see how passionate you are about it. So I'm so glad. We are unfortunately out of time for questions. Someone did ask if real quick you could go back to the social determinants of health slide. That way they can take a picture of it.
One of
Um,
my favorite slides.
it's so good to remember because we don't get enough awareness of that. Um,
We always need the reminder that, you know, health is such a broad term,
yeah.
and we really need to create a much broader definition. If we're going to
Mhm.
have any real conversation about health, it has to include social determinants of it.
Yeah. And it's just not the conversations that we're hearing enough. So I'm so glad
Exactly.
that all of you were able to join us today, and Sam, that you were able to give such a comprehensive presentation in the time that we had. So thank you everyone so much for joining us. We hope to see you in the future. If you have any questions, please feel free to email them to alumni@renfrewcenter.com, and we can get those over to Sam as well. Thank you all so much. Have a great rest of your day.